Yes.
Perfect.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining our LinkedIn Live. And this week we are coming early to host our special guest, Vicky Mortis. So it's an honor to have her. I have hosted some of the sessions with her, and they are the most popular, and she's my favorite. So I'm glad that were able to get her time and have host her on our LinkedIn Live. So before we kick off, I would like to go over a few slides about Bharat Dreaming. So this LinkedIn Live is an initiative of the Bharat Dreaming. So we are coming up this July 13th on in Jaipur at Rajasthan International Center, if I'm not wrong, Jaipur. So we have a lot of surprises planned as well at the event. There are many first-time activities that are happening at Bharat Dreaming. So stay tuned for all the updates. Make sure that you're planning, following the LinkedIn page and the Twitter page as well. So little bit about Bharat Dreaming. It's an initiative. So the thought was seeded 3 years ago. So by few of our core members, the team members. So that seed, it took some time to grow into a plant. Now it's growing big into a tree. So this is an initiative with a common mission to help the community and also to bring everyone together and to share the knowledge. So we are putting together a lot of sessions, and the reason why you should attend Bharat Dreaming is the unique content and an opportunity to meet everybody, and also there are some unique opportunities that you are going to have at Bharat Dreaming. So the activities which never happened at any other events before, we are planning for some of the events. So you will be the first to envision all of the to witness all those things. And at Bharat Dreaming, we are planning to focus on the Trailblazer community and all the advanced and latest features, the partner community, the startup community, the equality, the diversity and inclusion, and focus on the mental health as well. And also, our intention is to help people who are on a career transition to the Salesforce. And the overall motive is to empower everyone, and we are planning for 1,000 plus attendees. And I am one of the founding and the organizing member of Bharat Dreaming. I am Jyotsna Bitra. I go by JB, and I'm a Salesforce MVP. And we have Kuldeep here, uh, who is also a Salesforce MVP. And Kuldeep, why can't you go and introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. So I'm a Salesforce MVP and marketing champion, and Jaipur is a group leader, 9x Salesforce certified, and I'm working as a Salesforce marketing cloud consultant in Dot Squares. Thank you, Jabby, for introducing me. And yeah, please, over to you, Jabby.
So we have two other members, Om Prakash and Kapil Batra. So they will be joining the other LinkedIn lives today. They do not have the availability, but they're also actively working, and we are planning for some awesome things going on. So it's a unique event that I would say a must attend event for everyone. So there is something for everyone to learn in the event. So I would encourage everyone to stay tuned for all the updates and be the first to grab the early bird tickets. We are going to open up the registrations soon. So stay tuned for all the updates. And now we have our guest today, and Vicky is going to present, talk all about finding the path in the Salesforce. There are many situations in which a beginner or an experienced person in the Salesforce ecosystem may be confused. What next? What technology to? What cloud to choose? With so many updates happening, how to stay up to date with all those things? It's a confusion which is common for most of us. So I'm glad that Vicky is able to uh, share her availability and share her learnings about this one. So I'm sure there is something for everybody to learn. So, Vicky, I will turn it over to you now. I'm gonna share your presentation. Just give me a quick
We are
moment.
we are very happy, and we all are very excited. So yeah, please start.
Oh, perfect. Well, thanks so much for having me. It's really nice to be here. And yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing a bit with you all today. So, I'm going to be here talking about Choose Your Own Adventure. And the title of this presentation came from those Choose Your Own Adventure books. So I don't know if you ever read those type of books when you were younger, but where you could choose where you go in the chapters and you could choose where it was going to take you. And that's really the same idea that we're going to talk about today in this presentation. So, like you said, there's so many different paths out there. So, how do you make the choices? How do you pick where to go? So, just a quick hi to everybody here. If you don't know me, I'm really happy to meet all of you. And I'm a certified instructor with Salesforce and a architect with Sama Consulting as well. And I am a Salesforce MVP and marketing champion, like both of our lovely hosts here today. And I've realized that the slide didn't get updated. I'm 24 times certified. I did this presentation at Witness Success in London's Calling last year too. So on the wrong version, I think. And I'm also a 3 times mom. So this keeps me the busiest out of all of them by far. And I really am motivated by helping others. And I'm really glad that I kept this slide in here because after seeing what this group is talking about and really the types of subjects and topics that you're covering with this with Bharat Dreaming, it's important to know our reasons why. So, we're all here doing Salesforce in the Salesforce ecosystem for a reason. We all have our motivators. And when I did the session last summer for Witness Success, I had just finished off a family road trip. So I've left this in here as my reasons why we had taken 6 weeks off and drove all the way from New York to Austin, Texas, and finished in Minneapolis for Witness Success and Midwest Dreaming. So these are my 3 kids and my husband, and just the reasons why I do what I do in Salesforce and why I really try to make the impact that I make, especially getting women into tech, making it easier for my girls, hopefully someday, to make whatever choices they would like to make too. So, with that, I'll start to talk about the actual presentation itself. And there's so many different paths into Salesforce. And rather than talking about myself, I wanted to talk about some of the other amazing individuals that you may or may not know. So feel free to reach out to them, find them on LinkedIn. They're all there too. And I'll start with Simon DeForge. So he is, I think there might be a lag here. So Simon Defarge was actually a mental health professional who transitioned into Salesforce, became a Salesforce administrator, and now he's out there starting to share videos and things like that. He has some really awesome YouTube videos that I use on a regular basis when I'm getting stuck on how to share screen flows with public guest users and all of that fun stuff. So we also have Karat as well. And Karat was a software developer before she came into the ISV space and started to go down the architect path. So she was with our very first pilot group in Scale Up Arcs, one of the programs that I helped to organize with Melissa Shepard and a bunch of other really awesome individuals. And both of these stories I share with you today, and I'll have 2 more as well, to talk about all of these different paths. Everybody came with different backgrounds, everybody came with different stories and transitioned into Salesforce. And now we're all here taking up this space and really helping to support other people in the community. So we also have Lauren, who was more the traditional software development path and now works for ISVs. She was, I believe, at the time with DocuSign, she has changed to another organization since then, but is really making an impact in the ISV space. And then one of my colleagues on the instructor team is Laura Brew Blair, who came in through financial services. She was actually in banking, came in to do financial services alongside Salesforce, and now is an instructor with my team. So all of these different backgrounds, all of these different places that they ended up, and who knows where they'll be. So since I started doing this presentation, we've already seen some developments and some choices, some different career paths that the individuals before you today have taken. And I know that we're all the same. So we all have our different backgrounds. We all have different experiences, and that's what we get to bring to the table with us. And all of those experiences are really powerful in the Salesforce space because they're going to help us to understand the systems, the requirements, the job roles in a different way. So I know personally myself, I was an English teacher in a past life. Actually, I took a very windy road, and I went to university for as a bio major and all set to become a doctor. Realized that I really didn't like that as much, and started to study French and became a French major. Moved to France, realized I couldn't teach the French. Go figure. And then, became an English teacher for about 8, 9 years before I transitioned into Salesforce. So you build up this skill set, you build up these soft skills, you build up your knowledge of different industry areas as well as you're going through all of these different experiences. And one of the things that I always tell my kids and really anybody else I'm talking to is that it's never too late to change your mind. There's never going to be a decision you make, or very rarely, at least when it comes to your Salesforce career, a decision you make that you can't change your mind later. So I know I've changed my mind quite a few times and found a space where I'm really happy in. And I know a lot of us have come through maybe similar backgrounds, or you might have come directly through university studying computer software or computer engineering, and then directly into Salesforce from there. But that is what makes this community such a rich place, and really what makes the people here so great as well. So, one of the things that helped me the most to understand this twisty, turny road that brings us down our career paths and how to choose our own adventure in the first place was having a baby in a bicultural household. So, this was way before I was in Salesforce, still back in my English teaching days. This is my firstborn, Alicia, here. And as soon as she was born, we realized that myself being American and my husband being French, we were both raised in very, very different atmospheres with different cultures, and each culture had their own opinions about how to raise a baby. So, was even the little things like in France, we had this little envelope, almost this blanket that you would wrap the baby in, and it had a little zip up the side and made them into like a little pouch. Whereas in the States, or at least when I was there, we used a lot more blankets, and I had never seen this thing before. So it's those little things that we had everybody throwing advice to at us, just like pretty much anybody when you first have a child. I'm sure many people can commiserate with that. But what we realized and what really took some of the stress out of it was that moment where we said to ourselves, well, look, each of us came from different areas, from different backgrounds, from different cultures. We both turned out okay. And that moment was the moment that we realized we could throw out the rule book and take the advice, take the bits and pieces of advice that made sense to us, and it made the transition into becoming parents so much smoother. So I like to use this analogy to talk about our Salesforce careers because there's so many different opinions out there. There's so many different people giving advice, whether it's on LinkedIn, whether it's on coffee chats. We have mentors in the community, mentees as well. And everybody has an opinion about where you as an individual should go next. But actually, when you're making these kinds of choices and choosing your own adventure, it's going to be about taking what suits you and leaving the rest. Because at the end of the day, it comes down to you. Whatever choice you make is going to be the right one for yourself, and nobody else can make that decision for you. You can take in all of the advice, though. So, take in the advice, read the books, reach out and get your mentors, get tips about what you might want to do next, products to explore, maybe the next job role, the next certification to take. But ultimately, you want to take all of that information in and say, what feels like the right choice for me? What feels like the best path for me? My daughter was actually with me when I delivered this presentation, by the way, at Witness Success in person. And she absolutely turned red as a beet when I showed that picture of her. So always some nice times to be had. Loves it when I share. So, where does your story start? This is where I'm going to get you all hopefully starting to think about where you are right now, whether you're just beginning in Salesforce and just starting your career, or whether you've already been around the block for a while and you want to figure out what's next. So just remember that you'll have to pick a path at some point, but you can always change it. It can always shift, and who knows where it's going to end up taking you. So the path that you choose is going to be the right now path, but who knows 5 years down the road, if you're open to changes and if you're open to new experiences and new learning, it might be that you thought you were going to be an admin. You ended up wandering into the consultant path, taught yourself how to be a developer, and then wandered over to the architect space. Or it could be that you stay around in the marketing space and you become a marketing cloud admin, email specialist, just going around the certification roles, but those job titles could be different. And then you go down and maybe stay there because you can stay. That is okay too. We don't always have to be pushing up to the next level. But it might be that you decide, hey, I'd like to explore other things, and you stick around in the marketing space. There's a lot to be done here. So I know that we're very marketing focused with all of us marketing champions on the panel here, but um, even if you're not, who knows? But in the marketing space, there's so many different channels or so many different products that you can explore. You might decide to look into marketing cloud personalization as a product or specialize in reporting and really dig into marketing cloud intelligence reports. Whatever really sparks your interest and sparks your passion, which is what we'll talk about in a moment as well. So before we go into that, how do I decide what sparks my interest, sparks my passion? I just wanted to show all of the different career paths. And I've had to keep updating this, and I'm sure it's already out of date. So I've gone off of the Salesforce Ben career paths for ever since I started doing this presentation, and it's gotten bigger and bigger. And I have to say, the Salesforce Ben team has done a very nice job of keeping this up to date and readable, because we keep adding things to it. And as I update the images over time, they're looking pretty good here. So we can see that there's designer paths now. This wasn't here a couple of years ago, a very new path for us focused on user experience and user design. We have the associate level to help us get into the space and just dip our toes in, start to get familiar with what the Salesforce functionality or technology is. And this is one that's already missing. We have our marketing cloud associate or marketing associate as well down here. It might be just that you decide to wander on into the consultant space and get some of the consultant certifications. There's a developer in the pink over here. We've got our admin, all of our marketing cloud account engagement, and then all of these architect certifications. And again, it might be that you start in one place, but you're allowed to follow your interest. You're allowed to vary your products. And if you say, okay, CPQ, not for me, I did a couple of badges and it's just not my thing, you might leave that to the side and say, okay, well, I am really interested in this business analysis aspect. And that's the type of skill set that can be applied to so many different job roles. So that might be my next certification goal. So really coming back here, just exploring what's available. And certifications are not everything. So this is the gasp moment in here. I've got a nice little cartoon for all of you. But certifications aren't enough on their own. So I have certifications myself. I love using them as a study tool because they are really that guiding path. There's so much to study and so much to learn in the different products that it's hard to scope what you want to focus on. And certifications are one way to do that. It's one way of saying, this is the scope of what I want to study, what I want to learn right now. And then you can follow that certification path. And I tell people, even if they're not looking to take the certification and they're just looking to get to know the product a little bit more, all of those certification prep mixes and things like that, the study guides that they have, are really helpful to give us that guided learning path. And then the certification itself is just that knowledge check of saying, yes, I've reached this skill set and I have that minimum amount of knowledge to be able to successfully go into this job role, or I'm kind of sense checking where my knowledge level is at. And whilst we're talking about certifications, it's not enough to have certifications on their own. So learn your related topics here. There's so many different aspects to Salesforce projects. So it might be that you're interested in Scrum or project management or DevOps, or that you get really familiar with a couple of third-party apps. There's some really nice ones out there that are quite complex as well. So you can really specialize and bring that skill set to any project team that is working with that particular app out there. It's also about bringing your past skill set too. So that's why we started this presentation with the stories of some different community members, because we've all come from different places and we all bring those skill sets to the table. So things like active listening skills and negotiation skills and stakeholder management, business analysis skills, or even just, I know from being a mom myself, that project management is a part of having a family and having, in my case, 3 kids, but just having 1, you already start to project manage a little bit. So keeping everybody's schedules aligned, keeping on top of doctor's appointments and all of that kind of thing. That's a skill set that we're bringing to the table as well. So it really can be whatever your experience is, whether that is professional or whether it's in your personal life or in your volunteer roles that you might have done in the past. Always, always, always get hands on. So, as long as you have access to the product, actually building a dev org, starting a trial org, there's a lot more trial orgs that we have access to now. It's a great way of building your confidence, building your knowledge, and then also starting to put together some projects so that you get the look and feel of what it's like to solve for requirements, and then put all of that together in a project and maybe even put together a presentation so that you can show this off and build up your demo skills at the same time. So get hands on, get in there building. I've heard of people building things for all different reasons in DevOrg. So I know that I have my DevOrg where I manage a lot of my certification and my learning journey. I'll show you a screenshot of what that looks like later on in this presentation. But I've heard of other people who have created dev orgs around reminders to take their medicine on a regular basis or kids' medicine on a regular basis. It could be for your grocery list or shopping list that you'd like to put together. It doesn't have to be related to a customer or a client. It can just be something that you're trying to use to organize maybe your life or to solve for a made up fictional requirement as well. But as you start to get to use that, you'll see what it's like to have the Salesforce project from a customer perspective. So it's a really great way just to get that full picture and this holistic view of what our projects look like. And if you're just getting started, a really great way to get your feet in the water and just start to dive in head first. And then this last bullet point is probably my favorite one of all, and it's the hardest one to start with. But once you get there, you'll never feel comfortable. That's the point. But you start to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I always recommend to everybody, no matter where you are in your career, get out of your comfort zone every once in a while because we all have the area that we're comfortable with. We know how to do X, Y, and Z. And if we always do X, Y, and Z over and over again, we may be happy with that. We may say, this is enough for me, and I am happy with what I'm doing right now. But if we don't stick our toe out of that X, Y, and Z comfort space, then we're never going to evolve and learn new things. And being in the Salesforce ecosystem and with the way that Salesforce products change over time, it's really important to keep evolving as an individual and to test out the new release products and all of these new features and functionalities that we're getting. So, how to start getting out of your comfort zone? Well, I did this myself a couple of years back. I got involved on the declarative lookup rollup summaries team, and that is an open source commons project. And it was put together by the really amazing individual Andy, who now works for with Salesforce. And when he joined Salesforce, we needed a group of volunteers to be able to keep this project going. And if you've ever used the tool, it's a really awesome tool used by many customers all over the world. And it is completely open source, but it needed some updates, it needed some love. So we got a group of volunteers together, and I said, "Oh, this is really interesting to me. I love the tool, but at the time, I was not a developer." So I said, "Well, I'm not going to be the one coding for you. All of these Visual Force and Lightning Web Component wizards that you're making look really cool, but I'm not going to be the one writing those." Now I can start to do some of that as I've discovered some more development work and gone down that particular path myself. But at the time, I said, well, I can bring marketing, I can bring documentation, and I am happy to test whatever it is that you're building. But I don't have the developer skill set. And the really nice thing about all of these open source commons projects is that you can bring whatever skills that you have to the table. So I was welcomed in with wide open arms and got to sit there in Zoom meetings and listen to these really awesome developers talking about how what they were going to do, how they were going to do it, having all of these conversations about the pros and cons of different development solutions. And while half of it went over my head, I started to absorb some things, and we always absorb more than we think we do. So, a couple of years down the road, when I was starting to learn Salesforce development myself, I realized that a lot of the things that I was learning, I had already picked up at some level and was a little bit familiar with because of sitting in those conversations. So while it was a moment where I felt like I was lost, that I was an imposter sitting in that room, that I didn't belong there, getting out of your comfort zone, or at least getting out of my comfort zone there, and getting involved, giving back, networking, meeting people, and listening, being part of those conversations was a really powerful thing and helped me to choose my next move as far as my career path went, as far as my Salesforce adventure went. So, another thing that you can do to really start to motivate you as you're going down your career path is going to be tracking your progress. So, this can look like all different things. So, I started with my dev org after listening to Lilith Van Biesen talk about her CTA journey. And when she got her CTA, she was able to show off this really nice learning dashboard with all of the time that she had spent and all of the different learning objectives, all of the assignments that she had covered. You can kind of see that cut off down here. And I built all of this out and started to use it for myself and then said, oh, this is not for me. So, another example of taking the advice that works for you and leaving the advice that doesn't. Said, actually, this whole logging time thing, I hate logging time. I only do it when I absolutely have to. So, I'm not going to log it just for fun. It was more stressful for me than it was motivational or helpful. But what my motivation was and what worked for me was making these types of dashboards so that I could see my certifications over the years and see how they're increasing. It only went up to 2022 in this screenshot, but see how they're increasing over time. And I have another dashboard that I use where I track all of my learners since I've started to teach with Trailhead Academy. So I'm currently at 4,000 or 4,100 learners the last time I looked at it, who I've had in my Trailhead classes over the past 2 years. And for me, it's those types of metrics and impact numbers that make a difference. And when I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed or down, or just have those stumbling blocks that you'll have on your own adventures, because hey, it happens to everybody. These are the types of things that by tracking them over time, I can come in here, just take a moment exploring and looking around and digging into some reports and metrics and dashboards and see the impact that we've made over time and start to get a little bit of motivation going. So I know somebody else who has a Quip document or a Slack channel. I forget what it was exactly, but all of the positive feedback that she's received over the years goes into that, and she can go back to it. And again, when you're hitting those really down points, you're able to use that to pick yourself back up because all of us feel better when we are seeing the impact that we've made on others and saying, actually, this is just a low moment in my particular adventure. I'm going to get back up on the horse. I'm going to go back out there. I'm going to do great things. So, one of the things that I share all the time when I'm talking about learning in general is this thing called the learning curve. So, feel free to stick into the chat if you've seen this before, if you've worked with this before. But it helps, or at least for me, it helps. Again, coming back to the idea of taking what works for you and leaving what doesn't. But for me, it really helps to understand how our brains function in the first place. And we all have this thing called the learning curve. So when we're learning something new, usually at the beginning, we're really positive and excited. And we say, okay, seems like fun. This is why I'm starting to learn this particular topic or subject or product in the first place. And then we get to the point of learning a little bit and saying, "Oh, what was I thinking? This is really hard. How am I ever going to do this?" Then we get to a point where I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm doing it. Maybe we're trying to learn how to code and we're writing some Apex and we say, "Okay, I don't know what it is that I'm writing right now, but hey, I got it to save." And that's a really awesome point to get to. Or I ran it and it did what I wanted it to. Cool. So we say, I've got it. And then you try to do something else or you try to test it. If we're using the Apex example, we might try to write a test class and we go, nope, I don't know anything. What was I thinking? We poke around, we Google it, we go on the Stack Exchange, we hit up our friends, our mentors, our colleagues on whatever our communication channels of choice are. We might set up a couple of screen shares, whatever it is that we decide to do. And then we get to this I've done it stage. So just understanding that as we're learning, we have all of these different moments. And it's actually when we're down here at the bottom where we feel like we're not learning anything or that we're just plateauing, that we're not going anywhere, there's no movement up or down, that actually our brains are absorbing the most. So that's where the most learning goes on. And sometimes it's just recognizing that and realizing it and saying, okay, I know why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling. I'll just feel that way and let the thoughts, the emotions, do whatever they'll do, and then I'm going to keep on going. I'm gonna keep going. I'm going to get to this point. I've done this before. I know it's there in the future. I just have to get to it, and that can help you to see the light at the end of the tunnel. So I will credit Pei for this one. If you've ever met Pei, she does a really awesome presentation around ikigai. And I may be butchering that pronunciation. But this is a Japanese word, a Japanese philosophy that is all about finding this overlap. So we have the ikigai in the middle, and it's the overlap of our passion, our mission, our vocation, and our profession. It's that really sweet spot in the middle where we feel the best, where we feel like everything is positive, that we're doing something important, that we're making a difference, we're making an impact. So I like the questions here that help us to figure this out because it might be saying, okay, well, I don't know what my passion is. I don't know right now. I'm just getting started or I'm feeling a little bit lost. I don't have a mission. So, but I do have a profession right now and I have a vocation. So, all of these questions just help us to dig into this a little bit more. And the passion and the mission is going to come from what you love. Your mission and vocation is going to come from what the world needs. Your vocation and profession are going to come from what can you be paid for? Because at the end of the day, as much as I would love to just do volunteer work all the time because I love to do that kind of thing, hence being with all of you here right now, um, unfortunately, I do have to pay the bills at the end of the day, and 3 kids is not cheap in any way, shape, or form, so I do need to make some sort of living off of this. And then what are you good at? So, by finding all of these overlaps, we start to identify our passion. Our passion's going to be what we love and what we're good at. Our mission is going to be what the world needs and what we love. This might be our volunteer projects that we do or whatever that is. And when we start to have an overlap of all of this, it's our ikigai. So I know that when I was an English teacher, I was happy, but not where I am right now. And that's what led me to change career paths to transition in the first place because I was good at it. I love to teach. So I brought that with me to what I'm doing in Salesforce right now. That I was good with. What the world needs, yeah, there was a nice, demand for English teachers. I was doing online English teaching. What I can be paid for, online English teachers do not get paid enough, so I was getting somewhat paid for it, but it wasn't really something that, got me passionate. It wasn't really what I love here. So I was missing part of this, and whenever we're missing part of our, circles here, we feel a little bit unbalanced. We feel like something needs to change, something needs to shift, something needs to move. And that's when a colleague of mine launched a Slack challenge with this thing called Trailhead and said, "Oh, this is a free learning platform. Who wants to learn with me?" I raised my hand. We got really competitive. So everybody else dropped out, but the two of us kept going. And now she is in the Salesforce ecosystem. I'm here too. And definitely have found what I love, what I'm good at, what we can be paid for, and hopefully what the world needs as well. So just starting to move towards this place. And it's never going to be perfect. So now that we've seen some tools that we can use to think about what we're doing, we're going to take some time to reflect. And I have a couple of question prompts to really start to get this thought process going because we have an hour here all together. But this is going to potentially take some self reflection and some self thought, some processing after the fact as well. So, some questions to get you started. Pick one task in your current job role to keep. What is it? What makes you passionate about it? And when I was at the point of making a transition in my Salesforce career, I said, well, I love teaching. This is what I love that I'm doing right now. But I don't like I was doing, fundraising at the time and things like that, and I said, Well, I actually don't like doing sponsorships and fundraising and all of that stuff. It's just not for me. I'm not enjoying this." So I just used all of that information and just this thought of my tasks, writing down all of your tasks that you do right now and what do you like, what don't you like. If you could, in an ideal world, keep things and throw things away, what would you keep? What would you throw away? And it just helps us to identify what we're enjoying. Now, it's not going to be that this is a perfect world and we can say, I don't like doing admin, so I am going to leave all of my admin tasks to the side. We're still, unfortunately, going to have to do some things that we don't like to do. But you want to use that to guide where you're going and say, actually, if I'm doing 80% of my time doing things I don't like and only 5% of my time doing that thing that gets me really excited, maybe I should look at exploring that 5% and finding ways to grow that time. And again, for me, that was teaching, that was coming back and sharing information and knowledge with everybody who attends my classes and even all of you in the community. And then the other side of that coin, so we talked about this a little bit, we're keeping, but also what can we lose? So, what would your life be better without? What gives you the most stress? What keeps you up at night? What makes you wake up in the morning and not want to do whatever it is that you're doing? That might be something that helps you to guide and steer yourself away from that particular thing. what comes naturally to you? So we're all born with certain things that we're just naturally good at. Everybody has their skill set. And I'm not an artist. My art skills are very, very poor. My kids can outdo me already. Um, so I'm not going to be an artist. I'm not going to be a musician, but what comes naturally to me is teaching and the technology side of things, this logical side of things, more than the artistic. So it's about knowing what comes naturally to us. It might be that you're really good at having conversations with stakeholders and engaging with people on calls and just getting to connect and know individuals. It might be that that leads you down the business analysis route or towards project management and really having more connection with your users. Whereas if you're on the other side of that coin and say, oh, nope, that does not sound like me at all. And I really like just sitting down in my office and spending time doing the code. VS Code makes me happy. Then you know that, hey, the developer side might be the way we want to go and not sitting in front of the stakeholders as much. I say as much because you're probably going to have to at some point. So we still do have to keep some things around, but it'll help us make some decisions about what we want our day to day to look like. And then what gaps do you see that you might be able to fill? So do you say, actually, I would really love to see X, Y, or Z? And I think that the community, the Salesforce ecosystem could really benefit from this. Well, you can say, actually, let me go ahead and do that or try to work towards becoming this particular role, finding a place to be able to do this. And it could be a paid position, yes, this might be the types of volunteer roles that you're doing as well. So, do you really like speaking to other people in the community? You might do community conferences like this one and raise your hand to speak in front of others, share your knowledge, share your experiences. Or do you like creating things? You might create things for the community as well. So it could be as, again, a paid role, or it might be that you're doing some volunteer time and starting to put things together to give back. Up, there was one more down there. What do you want to bring to the world? So I know this has guided a lot of my choices, especially around volunteering, but just in general. So one of the reasons that I wanted to become a developer and to teach development. So I teach the our developer class at Trailhead Academy now, and I am currently co-running a, or not co-running, but co-leading. Might be co-coaching. There we go, a group with Rad Women Codes is because I wanted to be able to help women and people who identify as other gender roles to get into the development space because we don't see enough of us here. And it's hard to get into a space or an area if you don't see other people who look like you. So it could be looking like you physically, but also look like you as being a parent, juggling kids and juggling work at the same time, or just having similar interests, similar skill sets by seeing somebody that you have some sort of connection with, you're able to better visualize yourself going into that space. And that's what I wanted to do with the developer space, was to become a woman developer, helping other women to get into this space as well, so that when my girls come to the age of choosing their career path, one of my kids, my middle child, absolutely loves to do a little bit of code already. She has a coding program that she uses and was coding before she could read. So, um, I could easily see her going into that space as well, and I wanna make it easier for her to be able to do that. So, that's the question that comes back to our why, and why I kept the slide of my kids and my family in the at the beginning of the presentation is, what do you wanna bring? What's your legacy that you wanna leave in the world? And all of this is going to help us to find our nice winding path here. So, a couple of last pieces of tips and advice as I know we're getting towards the end of the session and I do want to leave time for any questions. There's no right answer. So, hopefully, the story of the bicultural household, seeing my cute little Alicia in there, helped us to realize that there's no right answer. There's no one size fits all answer. And if you were coming to the session today hoping I would tell you what to do, it's not going to happen because part of choosing your own adventure is going to be taking in all of the advice, finding all of the best tips out there, talking to other people, talking to people that you admire and that you might want to enlist as a mentor, just get their opinion, their suggestions on certain things, and taking that all in, using it to inform our decisions, but knowing that no matter what choice you make, there's no one right answer. It's not that you're going to be making a right and a wrong answer. It's just that we're taking a certain path. Nothing is forever. So, I shared my story of how I came from a bio major to a French major, English teacher, into the Salesforce space to really share with you that we can change our minds. And it's hard sometimes. Changing my major in university meant becoming a designed major, we called it, because the French major didn't exist, but it was what I really liked in the classes that I was enjoying, and they had this thing called a self-designed major, and I had to put some time and effort into coming up with my course curriculum, getting it approved. It meant that I had to study for a year in France, which, was, a terrible experience now. It was really awesome, but it was, harder to do, and there were those moments just before graduation where I got a letter that said, actually, we're not sure that your self designed major is going to be available for graduation or something like that. And it was just this moment where it felt like the whole world was collapsing. And it's about, yeah, getting through that, getting over those hurdles. And while you're making certain choices, just knowing that nothing is forever. If you're feeling this way right now, things are going to change one way or the other. We'll always be moving forward. And sometimes it's just keeping that in mind as we're going through those really difficult places that things are always changing. Change can be good, change can be bad, but things are always changing. Don't be afraid to try something new, even if it's scary. So sit in that room of developers, get out there, get out of your comfort zone and try something new because worst comes to worst, it's just not going to be your thing. And you can stop at any time that you'd like, but give it a try. You don't always have to go up. So this is a huge one. I was in a position in my career at one point where I was offered a role that was very high up and I accepted it at first and then realized that this was not at all where I wanted to go. And that's okay, but it's really hard to do because everybody is giving this advice and these tips of we need to go up. We always need to go into management or something like that. We're always trying to go up that executive list or this org chart where actually sometimes you don't need to go up. It might be going down to start over again and work your way up in a different path in a different career. It could be going parallel too. So, or it could just be staying where you are. And if you're happy where you are, you don't have to get influenced by all of those LinkedIn posts about people changing their jobs and changing their certifications. It's really great for them, and that's a good um, opportunity on their path. But that doesn't mean that you have to do the same thing. So if you're happy where you are, that's absolutely okay too. And I don't think we don't say that enough. Habits are really helpful to keep up the motivation because when we get into a habit of doing something, it becomes a reflex. It doesn't become a burden. It doesn't become something that we have to do. It's going to just become that reflex. So make learning a habit. Have the reflex of going onto Trailhead, or if Trailhead is not your thing, wherever you go for learning, reading blogs or going into just a dev org and trying things out, but make it learning into a habit. And that way, it'll just be a reflex. It'll just be something that you do over time. It's not going to be something that you have to think out and really work at getting that time or doing the effort of learning something new. Don't be afraid to ask for help. So, we've all been just getting into the Salesforce ecosystem at some point. So, that's why so many of us give back as well, is because there was somebody who held our hands to get into the Salesforce ecosystem or gave us a hand to help raise us up. And other people are willing to do the same for you. So I know I'm the first person to have a really hard time asking others for help. That's just not who I typically am. But I've made it a trying to make it a habit of asking for help more often. And it really does change the way that our careers go, that our ecosystem goes. Make time for self-care too. So, make sure that you're building up these good habits, but learning isn't everything. Salesforce isn't everything, and it's easy to get burnt out too. So just avoid the burnout, make some time for self-care, and self-care can look like different things for different people. So I know that I do yoga. I love to do that as some of my self-care, but other people, I know, like to play video games, and that's their mode of self-care, but it's just whatever gives you that disconnect. I also love to go out and hiking and into nature to get that disconnect as well, but that might not be the same thing for other people. So find what works for you and make sure that you prioritize that you make time for it, and find your people. So there's a lot of really awesome people in the Salesforce ecosystem, and surround yourself with these people that make you feel good, that are going to be your uplifting people, and also that challenge you. So, really building up this support system and this network that's going to help you if you ever need it, just be there for you on a bad day or a good day, who's going to be celebrating, championing you, talking about you when you're not in the room and opening up doors for you. So find your people, find your tribe, your club, whatever it is, but find the people that are going to be your support system and be stubborn. So if you haven't noticed, I am very stubborn. I will admit that about myself. From the whole self-design major thing and changing careers and all of that. Be stubborn. It's okay to be stubborn. Find what you like and what you want and what works for you and do it. Just because somebody else tells you not to do it or tells you that's not the right way to do things. This whole presentation, this whole talk today is about choosing your adventure. So be stubborn for yourself. Come up with your own path, with your own um, story, and play. So I know that play is a really important value to me. But, make sure to have fun with it. Even if play is not your thing, just make sure that you're having fun, that you're finding enjoyment, that you're finding a little spark of joy in whatever it is that you're doing. So, I know that I bring corny jokes to my classes. I have trailhead characters that dance all around when people get questions right on my classes, all kinds of fun stuff. And it's really corny, but it's my way of having fun, and I've gotten feedback that some people appreciate it. It might not be the thing for everybody, but it's a way of having fun and just really connecting and enjoying what you're doing. So, speaking of which, get ready for the mom's jokes. They can be even better worse than the dad jokes. I love to put these kinds of things at the end of my presentations. Things will get better. I'm feeling blue. Be of good a cheer or be strong. I live in France, so gotta bring the cheese. I'm rooting for you and belief in yourself. You can do this. This is my encouragement for all of you. Just whatever works for you. Thank you all for listening to my cheesy jokes, and being with us today. So I'll leave it open for some Q&A, and I do have the LinkedIn chats open, so feel free to throw in anything that you have as questions, comments, all of that good stuff.
I would like to go first, Vicky. That is wonderful, and these are all gems of information. Regardless of the journey of their Salesforce journey or the stage they are in, it is helpful for everyone, and it is a reminder for even the experienced people. The last slide, especially, it is like one frame picture that can be framed and kept as a reminder for everyone. Thank you, and I also liked about the learning path that you mentioned. So it's very important for all of us to remember that nothing lasts forever. So occasionally we may feel discouraged, we may feel disappointed, but it's not the end. The things are going to change, but only thing is to continue to push ourselves and also to keep learning and keep pursuing. Thank
Yes.
you, and there's so
Com-
much to learn and remember.
Yeah, and I liked especially in your session, Vicky, that what comes naturally to you, okay? Because this is really important thing. And when we are saying that, what do you want to bring to this world? Because this is also very important. So these two really important, as like nobody can change your world, only you can change your world. Uh, and so for the attendees, I can only say this, that as today's Friday, why not we can just make this weekend or your free time to as a learning day or learning weekend, do whatever you want to do, but please don't stop learning for a single day even. So get inspired and inspire to others too. So yeah, lots of love to everyone. Thank you so much, Vicky, for your session.
Oh,
Thank you.
thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun to do. And feel free, everybody who's here, or even people who aren't, who are watching this later, feel free to connect on LinkedIn to send any messages or questions that you have. I'm always happy to help to respond to.
Thank you
Any
very much,
questions?
Vicky.
And I don't see any
I
questions in
see
the
all the
chat.
positive feedback. Yeah, I don't see any questions, but all the positive feedback. And I have
Yeah.
something to share about the contest. For the last week contest, we have got some great responses. So we're going to post the winner soon. Maybe by tomorrow, we will post the winner. And also, we will come up with the contest. The contest will be announced tomorrow or day after. And please stay tuned and participate in the contest to win some amazing swag. Thank you, Vicky, and thank you everyone for joining us today. And we hope to see you again next week.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.